School shootings are a phenomenon that really only exists here in the United States, at least when you're looking at developed nations. I'm going to give you guys an update on how many school shootings have happened so far in the US, and then compare it to past years. I have an article and a study that I'm going to read from. The article is titled School Shootings in the US, Fast Facts. So there have been 23 school shootings in the United States so far this year, as of May 13. 15 were on college campuses, 8 were on K-12 school grounds. The incidents left 9 people dead and at least 33 other victims injured, according to the groups Gun Safety Archive, Education Week, and Everytown for Gun Safety. The article says that these numbers are accurate because CNN cross-checks these reports of school shootings against school and police accounts and media reports. So it's important to define some terms first. What qualifies as a school shooting is if they occurred on school property, that's pretty common sense, from kindergartens through colleges/universities, and at least one person was shot, not including the shooter. So really these numbers could be much larger if you included attempted shootings or, an attempt of self-harm. School property includes, but is not limited to, buildings, fields, parking lots, stadiums, and buses. So the shooting had to have happened in one of those places, but on school property. All right, so let's look at the numbers. Let me move this over here. Okay. These numbers report back to 2008. As you can see on the chart, the light purple represents the number of school shootings that have happened by May 13th, which is the 133rd day of the year. You can obviously see a trend here. From 2008 to 2025, it slowly, increases each year. 2022 was horrible. 2022 got off to an awful start. In 2020, there were 22 school shootings, and obviously that makes sense why the number's so small. COVID caused most schools to shut down and go virtual for a semester. And then 2021, it shot up to 74 for the whole year. In 2022, there were 80. It looks like it skipped 2023 for some reason, but 2024, there were 83 school shootings. And this year, 2025 so far, we have 23 school shootings. And if you're looking at the graphic here, this is the third most at this point in the year, dating back to 2008. So in the past 17 years or so, this is the third worst start to the year. Now this next graphic is very important. This chart represents how many school shootings per capita happen in each state. Right off the bat, you can tell that the southern states, which are more conservative and have more lenient gun laws, have many more school shootings per 100,000 people. Louisiana seems to be the worst, with 35 total school shootings since 2008, with a 0.75 school shooting per 100,000. Looks like Delaware takes second place with 0.61 school shootings per 100,000. Republican-controlled states like New Mexico, Texas, Arkansas, like I said, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, Tennessee, North Carolina, they're all much darker than the rest of the country. This is no surprise, right? It's been proven time and time again that more lenient gun laws lead to more gun violence. And this study shows that it also leads to more school shootings, because these dark states right here all have very lenient gun laws compared to the rest of the country. So what do we do with this information? Well, we can add it to the list of hundreds of studies that have proven that red states have more gun violence. States that have more lenient gun laws make it easier to obtain a firearm. And when access to obtaining a firearm is open to more people, it allows more bad people to get their hands on them. And I know if you're a Republican, you're probably thinking, well, what about Chicago? What about Chicago? Chicago has the most strict gun laws in the country, and they still have a ton of gun violence. That's true. Chicago does have a lot of gun violence, but this is why. Many of the firearms that are being used in Chicago are imported from other states that have more lax gun laws. For example, Indiana. The Indiana border is just miles from Chicago. You can actually see the Chicago skyline from Indiana. It's that close. So it's incredibly easy to drive over to Indiana, where they have more lenient gun laws and more types of people can purchase a firearm, and then bring it back over to Chicago, where that person may not have been qualified to purchase one in Chicago, if that makes sense. Local police in Chicago have reported that many of the firearms they're recovering aren't even from Chicago. They're either registered to someone that's not even in Illinois, or they were purchased outside of Illinois. That's pertaining to many of the firearms that are being recovered by the police. Look, I'm not anti-Second Amendment. I think responsible people should be able to own a firearm, but I think we need more strict laws. I think you should have to pass a background check no matter what type of firearm. We need to eliminate loopholes like auctions. We need to put more restrictions on private sales of firearms. We need universal background checks in every state. We need red flag laws in every state. We need to ban bump stocks again. We need to ban what people call assault rifles. And that's not even the correct term to use. Assault rifles are military style weapons that most citizens can't get their hands on. What people mean by assault rifles are assault weapons. So semi-automatic rifles like the AR-15, for example, which is a very common firearm used in school shootings and other mass shootings. I don't think we should outright ban those firearms, but put more restrictions on who can get those. I think in every state, you should have to go through a gun safety class. You should have to go through a mental health examination, just like they do in Australia and Japan. You should look up the gun laws in Japan. It's actually very common sense. You can get a gun in Japan, but you have to pass a thorough mental health examination, and that just makes sense, right? If you're going to own a firearm that can kill potentially 30 or 40 people in a matter of a few seconds or within a minute or so, we should make sure that only people who are mentally stable can get their hands on those. So in conclusion, I think people should be able to own firearms, but they have to go through the correct channels. There needs to be much more regulation and restrictions on them. Because look, we have more school shootings in this country than every other developed nation combined. Gun violence is the number 2 cause of death for children in this country. I believe it used to be number 1, but cancer might be number 1 now. It is not okay that so many Americans are just content with being the worst in the world. We are the only developed nation where gun violence is a top 2 cause of death amongst children. We are the only developed nation where school shootings happen by the dozens every single year. And the simple reality is it's because there are more guns than people in this country. There are too many guns. Mental health problems exist in every other country. Every other country, people are depressed, people are suicidal. Every other country, that's the case. But yet they don't have these mass shootings. They don't have these school shootings. We are not unique in our mental illness. That's the dumbest argument that I hear all the time from conservatives. Well, we need to make sure that mental health is addressed. It's like, yes, we do need to make sure that mental health is addressed. But every other country is dealing with that too, yet they don't have these problems. It's because those countries, Australia, the United Kingdom, most of Europe, Asia, especially Japan and China, they have strict gun laws. Much, much more strict than what we have broadly in the United States. I'll put the studies below to prove this point, but there is a direct correlation between how lenient gun laws are and how many mass shootings and school shootings there are. The more gun laws a country has, the lower the gun violence and the mass shootings are. It's just a fact.